All right, we're here for a special meeting. It's a smaller version of a board meeting, and we'll do these occasionally when we have a topic that we need to cover that might be extra for a regular board meeting. First thing is evacuation. There's a door and there are windows. And for RG?
There's a door. The door.
Roll call is Tim, Trish, Robin, and I are in the room, Frank, and RG is remotely attending from Niagara Falls, and Rob has not been able to come because he has an emergency at work. So we want to start with the personnel items so that our roll call changes, perhaps. So with that in mind, we have a resolution 2.1.1 resolving that we appoint Barbara Owens to effective today to fill the position left vacant due to the resignation of Mr. Jim Coffin, and she will hold that position until the annual meeting on May 16th, at which time a person elected will fill the remainder of Mr. Coffin's unexpired term. So do I have a motion? Or is there a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Now we're going to administer the oath, and Jessica's here to administer the oath. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
No, I solemnly swear or affirm that I support the Constitution of the United States, Constitution of New York, yes. Thank you.
Come on, boy.
Come on up.
Come on up.
Exciting.
Yeah. Welcome.
Change chairs.
All right. I feel like we should do another roll call.
Choose your chair wisely because that's it for the rest of your life.
Not at all. All right. So now our roll call includes Barbara, and we're now going to just run through very quickly. We have items 2.1.2 we just did. So 2.1.3 is a bunch of appointments all the way down to 2.2 is out-of-town field trips and an out-of-town field trip request. Do we have a motion to move all of these items all at once?
I'll move him.
Any second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good. All right. With that done, we have a presentation on the energy and performance contract.
All right, so we have a representative from Danforth here tonight. This is Ian. Ian, I forgot your last name.
Right.
Thank you. So Ian is here. We met with Ian recently, Jim and I did, to go over some of the specifics of the project itself. And we wanted to have Ian come in today so you can ask him questions regarding the EPC and other items that are going on. And he can kind of run through the whole thing for us. One thing really quick is John Jojo is here. Last time at the board meeting, they asked how many EPCs has Mosaic done or John has done. Here's a listing of them all. I mean, since 1995, they've done them. John has done all of them except for the one in 1995. Other than that, he's done all the rest of them. So that is the ones that Mosaic has accomplished, and I have other copies if you need. But I wanted to share that with the board as well.
Yeah, and I can provide a completed list following this meeting as well. Something we're kind of compiling in this meeting.
Can we ask Ian to
Stand up there, please?
Yeah.
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 That's good.
Good.
To turn around and I do have some other copies of some items we'll get into. I'll share those shortly here.
I'll do the slideshow for you.
Yeah, appreciate it. I'll just say next slide if you want to do it that way. First of all, my name is Ian O'Brien. I'm with John W. Danforth Company. We are a upstate New York privately owned and employee-owned company. I live locally, 5 minutes down the road in Altamont. with my wife and son, so it's not too far for me to be here. And my in-laws live right across the street, so it's a lot of pride in kind of what we're doing here today. We'll go next slide if you don't mind. So what we've done to this point is a couple months back is we looked at the project just from a utility perspective. So an energy performance contract is really driven from your a benchmark analysis done by utility bills. So looking at the usage that the district already is occurring kind of throughout the last couple of years we looked at, incorporating 2020 as well, just with that fluctuation in the way the buildings are being operated. But we basically looked at the utility bills and we determined if there's a project there or not. And we certainly determined there was a project, and really that's based off of how we can improve the usage and become more energy efficient by doing different improvements throughout the buildings. So typical facility managers usually look for, it's replacing aging equipment. What equipment's you're putting Band-Aids on? How can you improve some of the infrastructure work within the buildings? That's not incredibly flashy. It's not a vestibule outside. It's more of the systems inside the buildings that we're looking for. The lighting, the temperature controls, those types of things. And then we work with those facility managers to understand how those buildings are being operated and come up with strategies to improve it. Go to the next slide. Overall, kind of mentioned it, Danforth, we're a nationally recognized contractor. We are an energy services company as well. We work in numerous vertical markets, from semiconductor to schools to municipalities, locally here and across the state. We stay really based in New York. We don't really go down to New York City. We North Country, and we've progressed and grown out to the Ohio area out of our Buffalo office. So everything is really based here, and we're a local company that we live and work here. Danforth really specializes in energy performance contracting, overall mechanical improvements, air purification, ventilation improvements, temperature controls, and then how we can take all of that work that we've done and properly service and maintain it. So we have a service department as well. So EPCs are able to be performed and included within school districts due to Article 9 energy law. And that's really basically taking your long-term energy improvements and capturing cost savings for making those improvements through energy savings. And that all came into effect in 1994. I think it's progressed since then. There's been, really primarily manufacturers that typically were those energy services company where they have a piece of equipment that can drive the energy improvements or the efficiencies. Usually it's like a controls contractor or something along those lines. Then you're really stuck within that path that they have for you to use only their controls and only improve it from that perspective. So how an EPC works, I really spoke to it first. So is there a project here or not? So we take a look at that benchmark over a 3-year period. We take the most realistic 12-month time period, and we use that as our energy baseline. So we take the baseline utility costs on an annual basis, and we look at that over an 18-year period. So within an energy project, the improvements on average have to pay for themselves over 18 years. So we've developed a project around that basis. The next step is an on-site preliminary analysis, which we completed following the benchmark, and then to release a public RFP with that data. So that was completed, and we responded through a proposal. The next piece is selection of an energy services company, and then to develop the investment grade audit. So we call it a detailed energy audit. It's a deep dive, very thorough investigation of the buildings, the equipment, operating and maintenance budgets, the financials of the district, to really understand how the buildings are being operated and what operation and maintenance costs are associated with maintaining those buildings. And to do all of this, and even to this point now, there is no cost to doing any of that. So through the detailed energy audit, there is still no cost to the district. You are receiving this information, and we are going forward through the process without any cost or out of pocket. The time that a cost or payment comes into play is when a contract is executed, or excuse me, not even at the contract, when a project is approved through New York State SED. And then it would be an approved contract and you go to procurement, that's really where the cost would come into play. Okay, next slide. We touched on that. Those are kind of your typical improvement measures. So the typical items you'd see in an energy performance contract where it's a little different than a capital project. Some of that certainly overlaps, but it's potential window replacements, temperature controls. Just like if you think about your own home, you want to accurately condition your air within the in your space, heating, cooling. You want to tighten up and seal up doors and windows. Lighting, so how to improve your lighting from fluorescent to LED or improve that efficiency. And then your overall, your heating and cooling mechanical items. Some other pieces that we have incorporated in energy projects are large-scale renewable energy, such as solar, specifically ground mounts. We do not want to go on the roofs. We really want to stay away from roofs if that was the case, just from a warranty perspective and overall structural needs. And then we also incorporate small scale student engagement. So if we were to do just a renewable kiosk, just on renewable energy, we can offer a kiosk at your main lobbies to provide information to either a local solar farm, or we could put something like that more on the roof or in the backfield, and then they could see how that's operating and the education that goes along with that. On that piece, Danforth being the contractor that we are, energy services company that we are, we do a lot with student engagement. We work with different BOCEs in the area, where we've also had faculty come work in our shops, in our prefabrication shops, and with our design teams, and then go back to school the following year and teach some of those topics. Go to the next slide, please. So some benefits. So why is this important? How does it kind of differentiate from a capital project? Learning environment improvements. So that's your lighting, your heating and cooling in your spaces, making sure faculty and students can learn in the best possible space. There's a guaranteed energy efficiency to the district. So throughout an EPC, once a project is developed and we go to a contract for what that project includes, we hold the risk of that project. So there's no change orders like in a capital project. We hold, if there is a efficiency that was not met and we guaranteed it, we hold the risk of that guarantee. So there's really no risk from a contractual perspective for the district. There's no tax levy increase. Ultimately, the voters and community has voted on the operation and maintenance budget for the utility bills at some point, most likely back in May. So it's already been voted on. So there's really no vote necessary for that piece of it, and no increase to the tax levy because of that. There's a positive cash flow to the district, and it allows you to maximize building aid as well. We kind of spoke to it, no cost for what we've done to this point. In more of a thorough deep dive into kind of the next steps and where we're at now. So issuing an RFP and responding to that RFP, selecting the energy services company. The DEA is really the point out where we're at now, and looking to be on site at the beginning of next week. Next step would finalize a project scope, coordinate with the capital project team, make sure we're aligned as far as going to construction, what scopes in what project, or if you want to call it kind of what bucket, and we can coordinate with how those improvements are constructed. Following that is the contract. We then design working with your team that you have in place, so we don't bring in a third-party engineer. We work with who you've already partnered with and have are comfortable with. Then it would be an SCD, New York State Education Department submission of the project, and most likely that would be in line with the capital project as well. And then it's a review approval, and then procurement, we begin construction. Just kind of in a nutshell, the numerous steps that are involved in the energy project. Any questions so far? I've kind of thrown a lot at you already.
Who is Mosaic?
Mosaic is your architect in the room, right there.
Those two people.
John
John
Jeffrey and Michelle.
John and Michelle.
As an architectural firm.
Yes, architectural firm.
Got it.
So we work with them, understanding that development of their capital project. Our goal is to really how to assist from a budgetary perspective and pull out some of those energy saving type items that maybe is more beneficial for the district to do in an EPC rather than a capital project. So kind of a great point here, combining a capital project and EPC. A lot of that type of scope can overlap, and there's sometimes more benefit to the district by pulling that into an energy performance contract. You can, if you want, you can go over that. So here at Voorheesville, we've gone through a couple different options. So here you go.
Okay.
I knew this was gonna happen. So.
Come on, I
That's.
got a system better here. Oh, that works.
That's gonna be like. All right, so what we're looking at on this page, so I'll back up and kind of explain how we got to this point. So talked about the benchmark that we completed, talked about a preliminary analysis, and you see at the top it says option 4. So we've gone through a couple different options of how to take the priority items in the capital project and priority items to the district and incorporate them in this energy performance contract. So first on the list is interior LED lighting, and I won't get incredibly granular. I just high level, I want to just explain kind of what's in it and some priority items that we're touching on. And this is a target project we like to start with, validate the savings as we progress through the detailed energy audit. But from my understanding, this is kind of the approach we want to take in this option. So the junior and senior high school, we'd update the rest of the LED lighting. Some areas have already been completed. We want to protect the investment of those areas that's already been done. So we wouldn't touch those, but we'd certainly try to be universal and make sure it's all spaces are converted over to LED. A lot of the exterior has already been completed in recent projects. In the elementary school, a lot of work is planned to be done there. So with our goal is to do all new interior lighting for that space. So throughout the building, all new interior LED fixtures.
Ian, can I just say one thing real quick?
Yes.
Number one, that is retrofitting. So
Correct.
for the
Yes.
junior, senior high school,
Thank you.
they'll be the same fixture. They're just going to retrofit the fixture with LED. The elementary school will be all new interior lights to match the building as the
Correct.
project changes.
Thank you for that point. Yes, so that's retrofit. So we're not just replacing bulbs. That's completely taking out, you want to call it, by a better term, kind of the guts within the light, replacing the ballast inside it, all the connections, and then putting in new bulbs as well. In certain spaces where we can improve, the lighting and the controls in some areas, that's something we want to discuss down going further. But right now in this option, we included all interior retrofit lighting for the junior, senior high school. Number 2 is new fixtures, so new lighting throughout the elementary school. Due to the ceilings being changed and new designs in those spaces, we want to make sure we're not leaving old lighting in those areas. That's why I circled that there below as well, number 3. So new interior lighting, dimming controls as well. So if we're going to do new lighting, we might as well do new controls, just to make that kind of package work together. Next piece is building envelope. I spoke to a little bit on weatherization. So building envelope means tightening up windows, doors, top of wall areas above ceilings, anywhere there could be a gap in spaces where whether it's conditioned air or heating is escaping from the building. So same thing you would do at your home. It's a low payback type of improvement, and it drives up the savings to pay for some of these other high cost items. BERT plug power controls or plug load controls is Looking at the district holistically, we work with the IT department as well as the facilities and determine printers, smart boards, computers, anything that could be shut down when it's not in use. It can drive savings to pay for some of the other items. It's on here from a savings perspective, but this is not set in stone, and it's still something to be discussed with you folks and the district if it's certainly a priority. What's nice in that measure is it's not incredibly labor intensive. It certainly drives savings, and if someone goes to use a printer, it just kicks right on. There's no scheduling that's really required. Lock-in refrigeration controls, so there's no renovations to the refrigeration large walk-in freezer here at Junior Senior High School. So we found that during our walkthrough as to something to improve on. We had it in the elementary school, but understanding the project scope with the capital project, that proposed scope is to be replaced. So we obviously don't want to put something on that's going to be removed. And then number 9, so the pool area heat recovery unit or the desert air unit is within the mechanical space above the pool. There is a large unit in there that conditions that space. Our approach here is to replace that fully, including the controls associated with it. It's currently not controlled. There's a lot of loss of efficiency right now through our analysis and working with the controls contractor in the district. We've come up with an approach to replace that turnkey in kind and keep it within the EPC. Number 10 is an auditorium air handling unit 1. So it's a variable speed drive or variable frequency drive, which basically if you walk over towards the auditorium, you may notice some rattling or maybe a little bit louder. That's an ability to, if we don't replace the unit, we can at least slow it down and decrease the airflow that goes through that ductwork right now. Something to be analyzed a little bit further, and maybe something that we could replace in kind. But right now, it was more of just a drive to put on it to increase efficiencies.
So one quick thing when the development of option 4 is this also takes into account what we can do with our capital, our $100,000 capital outlay projects each year and over our 5-year conditioning span. So we're always going to do the $100,000 capital outlay project because you get 8 off of that each year. So some of these things like replacing an AHU thing or doing all these others can be on another plan. So even though we're not doing them now, we're going to be doing them in another year. So some of the things Ian's talking about, we're addressing in a 2-year scope with the capital outlay project back in the high school again. So it kind of always is cyclical and being able to always keep these things up.
When you say decreased airflow, how does it impact air exchange?
It still keeps the same air exchange. It just slows down the speed of the airflow from the rooftop unit. Yep.
But it cleans the air.
Still cleans it, yeah. That's all the same.
Okay.
There's still the same amount of ventilation. It's just not running at 100% at all times. Part of that is through occupancy sensors too that we can include, where we know in the space, if there's a lower CO2 level, that unit can slow down and not work as hard as if it was a higher CO2 level. Heating loop improvements is the next piece of that. It was something we found our project developer as we walked through the buildings. Really low payback item, not a lot of cost to it, but certainly would improve the existing system. Working with Stark by TBS that's in the district. Obviously, temperature controls is exactly what it sounds like. It's equipment that is not currently controlled. When it's controlled, it can obviously, it's a little bit more visible to the overall system, and you can turn it off at certain times, just the way it sounds. And then the PC power controls is very similar to the plug load controls. This piece is more about computers and monitors and basically shutting them down when not in use. Again, something we want to address and speak with the IT department on, the district as a whole, if that's something that is of value to them. They may be already using it. It wasn't discussed yet, so that can change. It won't affect the job a ton, but it certainly helps from a savings perspective. We want to understand if it's a priority or not moving Can I go to the next slide?
Can you, before you do,
Yes. Go ahead.
sorry, I just have a question. What is that column, simple payback? What is that?
Yeah,
You can just
perfect.
do all
So
the
let's
columns.
Yeah.
walk through that.
Yeah,
I'm
or
sorry.
just-
Yes.
I mean,
I understand the
implementation
price.
Yeah. Jinx.
So good
But,
point.
yeah.
Rush that there. So looking at the table, working from left to right, FIM, facility improvement measure, that's what it stands for. Facility, you understand. Facility improvement measure in detail. Implementation price is your turnkey number. And keep in mind, there's no change orders in an energy performance contract. So at a contract, the price you see is what it will be. So even with inflation, we hold the risk of that change. Energy savings is what that measure, energy or that improvement measure will came in districts. So it's energy cost savings.
Over 18 years, over 1 year.
The total is over 18 years.
Okay.
This is over 18 years. Yes.
Okay.
Associated savings is for the measure as well. So that is for material costs and material costs only for those improvements. So working with lighting improvements, right now there may have been materials ordered on a regular basis to make changes to the lighting or repair costs or Band-Aids put on certain mechanical equipment. We take that into account. The numbers we've used to this point are what we've seen in our experience. We'd obviously work with Jim to make sure we can validate those in full, and moving forward, those are accurate and documented. Next piece is estimated utility incentives. So that's working with National Grid directly, understanding the incentives that are available at the time of construction. So if we applied now, we couldn't guarantee we'd have them by the time of construction. So we try to be thorough in that investigation to make sure we have accurate incentive dollars associated. We rarely guarantee 100% incentives. It's usually around 30-40%. It's a conversation we can have together as far as what we want to carry there. This is at 30% incentives, and overall it's about $67,000 in incentives. And then your simple payback, so that's the amount of time basically the measure pays for itself. And overall, it has to be on average in 18 years, simple payback. When we go to contract and we submit a project, we never sit at 18 years. It's usually like 17 and a half, 17.6. Just when SED comes back with any comments, we want to make sure we're covered from the payback perspective.
Hey, Ian. I'm RG O'Leary. Nice to meet you. Is there to the table that's in the slides? Like, am I supposed to be able to follow like implementation price divided by one of these other columns to get to the 18, or are these just estimates?
These are estimates right now. I can share, and you don't have it actually, unfortunately, but the pro forma on the back side of this handout, that's how the entire project's built up.
We were doing that.
Yeah, Frank sent it to me.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
perfect. So on the back side, and just remind your original question again.
I'm just trying to figure out, is there any math behind the table that one could follow through, or are these estimates?
These are estimates. I would say from a scope perspective. So the financials are in the pro forma, which I can walk through. But the implementation price is really based on your energy savings, your associated savings, and then obviously the cost of doing the construction. On the back side is the pro forma, and that is a financial breakdown of the project as a whole over 18 years. Again, this is using the target option that you see here. This can change, but overall, this is what you'd see in the future going forward. So working left to right, you have your base year energy costs on an annual basis over 18 years. Your energy savings, and that's driven by your utilities usage and your utility savings over that 18-year period.
Nice.
So
does that increase just because of inflation or
What's up?
like it's 64,000 year one, but 90,000 year 18,
Yeah, so it's based on a 2% inflation
2%?
at the bottom in the assumptions.
Oh, right, okay.
So we
Yeah.
have, and I can start there if you'd like. So at the bottom, we have your service inflation, which doesn't apply. We don't have a service contract built in. Energy inflation, and then operation and savings inflation over the 18 years. And that was requested through the RFP to carry those percentages.
Okay.
So working through the assets, again, it's your associated savings for the project as discussed. So it was that total on the first page, built into the pro forma on the back page in the table. Your estimated rebates, you're only going to see for that first year. So you see rebates the first year. You can take advantage of those rebates in the first year, and then that's it. They're not over the 18-year period. That's a one-time revenue. Moving across, we have the estimated New York State SED building aid over 15 years. So you can receive building aid over the 15 years. And then your total assets. Working to the right, you have your first column is your payment. And then through your liabilities and payments, and your total assets, your net annual benefit is a positive cash flow within the net annual benefit line. So the first year includes your incentives at $76,000, and then each year after it's around $25,000 in positive cash flow directly to the district. The assumptions at the bottom, 1.5 million is your project size, so the EPC project size, including the scope that we discussed. We did this at a 4% interest rate. We've seen it vary from 3 to 4 to 5, and that can fluctuate a couple times throughout this process. Right now, we're carrying 4, just kind of staying in the median there. The current building aid rate is 68.
I'm sorry. What is the interest on?
4%.
Oh, not the, what's it on? What are you calculating interest on?
On the project overall, so on the
implementation price?
correct. Yep.
So say there's no cost to the district. There's cost though in terms of the interest on the project.
Correct. Yep.
Thanks.
Can I ask a quick question too?
Yes.
Column for the building aid, 1.278, that's at 100%. So if the voters don't vote for this, that will decrease by 10%?
It wouldn't decrease. It would actually decrease it would decrease, yes, and then it would decrease your net annual benefit.
So
Your
let's
positive cash flow.
clarify a little
It's a
bit.
couple of
Thanks,
two
Jim.
things.
So if the voters approve it, it's at the full building aid ratio.
What we see right there.
If they deny it and the board decides to go ahead,
Right.
the ratio would be 10% less.
Less.
So
Yeah,
that's
correct. Yeah.
So column 4 would be 10% less, or that's not the ratio?
It would go from 68.9, which he has in his assumption, to 58.
Oh, got you.
So
Okay. Thank you.
So that column would decrease, and then it would affect your net annual benefit.
Yes, okay.
Next piece was the inflation percentages that we discussed. And then your overall cumulative savings, your net present value, and then typically in an energy project, you see a 28 to about 32% utility savings. This is around 33% for this specific option and for the district. We just received updated utility bills that we requested, and we're still working through that right now. A lot of data to go through. So we'll have updates as we progress through the detailed energy audit. And that can certainly change things too, and improve the project. When we go through the detailed energy audit, right now you see it kind of at a high level. This is what we have at this point with the information we have. Once we go through the DEA, then it becomes more clear. We tighten up the numbers from a cost perspective, and we can certainly gain more savings as we do more thorough deep dive through the buildings.
Ian,
Yes.
the energy savings is calculated at like 1.39, 1.4 million over the 18 years.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea what that means as far as the carbon footprint for the district buildings?
I do, yeah. I can share that
That would
with
be
you.
awesome. Oh, look at that. Totally. I did not.
So existing roughly, you're honestly pretty efficient, to be honest.
That's-
So right now, your greenhouse gas emissions are equivalent to about 14 acres of forest preserved at this point from deforestation. So our proposal would be about 66 acres. The next piece is currently you're equivalent to about 8 railroads of coil burned, eight rail cars of coil burned. This project would improve that to 36. So that is the reduction difference. And then we have
Miles
cars
off.
on the road as well as barrels of oil.
Thank you.
And I can provide kind of updates as these options change and the project changes. We don't see it decreasing, probably increasing if anything, so I can share that with you.
And just to note, when you'll see the resolution next week, it will include a higher number at 2 million rather than the 1.6, just in case there's any, more we can gather.
But that would all mean similar financial benefit.
Correct. Even more financial
Yeah.
benefits.
So it's really, this is based on the information we have to date.
Mhm.
The more time we spend in the buildings, obviously the more information you gather, the more savings you can implement into a project like this. Going to go to the next slide, please. So overall, I tried to match this up the best I could as far as between the capital project, from my understanding of the schedule, as well as the energy performance contract. A lot more steps involved, obviously, in the EPC, which we spoke to. But for the most part, we want them to align. So we want to make sure the submissions are really at the same time. SED approval comes in at the same time, and then we can coordinate. For example, if we're putting in new ceilings in the elementary school, we want to make sure we come through and put in new lighting at the same time. So there's no delays there. So that's our intent going forward. That coordination, I think, is key, and that's a common practice for Danforth. We're constantly in capital project work in schools, but also in conjunction with an EPC as well. And that's it. If you have any other questions, I can answer those.
Where is your fee taken out of? Is it added to the payment?
My fee specifically,
Yeah.
it's built into the project cost. So one fee for a letter of intent to do the DEA is provided. It's $9,500. That's if we come up with a project, we present that project, and the district decides not to do the energy performance contract. That's a fee for our time and work to provide that detailed energy audit to you. Otherwise, it's built in the construction of this work. We self-perform a lot of our work, and that's where you're going to find it. It's built into the project overall.
Or into the implementation prices.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
John had a statement.
Go ahead, man.
To clarify, the rebates and incentives are a direct check back to the district?
Correct. Yeah.
But still have to then go towards the bond.
Of course,
Yeah.
but I had explained that to you in the past.
Yes, they are, and we can have a discussion on what we want to guarantee, for those incentives. But yes, that's
Thank
correct.
I have a
Any other?
RD.
Yep.
Yes.
Would we see contractual language, like even if it's, an example contract for ones that you've done in the past?
Yep, absolutely. So in the proposal that I dropped off to the district, it has a sample EPC project, a sample contract, and then I also can provide the terms and conditions, the first 10 pages for you to review as well. That's usually a practice method procedure of working with the district attorney to provide that up front so they can see that.
Yeah, I'd like to see it. Thank you.
I can share, I think you have an electronic copy of the proposal. If not, I can share it with you.
Send it to me.
And pass it along.
Yep.
Okay. It's in the appendix for as far as the sample EPC.
And that's the same contract that we send to SCD initially.
Correct. Any other questions?
Thank you
Yeah,
very
this was
much.
good.
This was
Thank you.
really
No
helpful
problem.
and
Thank you.
clarifying. Thanks.
You got it. Thank you.
Appreciate your help.
Appreciate your time.
Excellent.
No more questions? Thank you guys for coming today. Is there a move to adjourn? Frank, did you have anything else
Well, can I just say the
Yeah.
next steps is,
before we?
if the board is good with this and we're moving forward, the next step is for October 3rd is to approve the resolutions or vote on the resolutions for us to go out for a capital project. Capital project would include the EPC, also include the elementary school project of
25.2.
thank you, of 25.2 million. So that really is the next steps in this. We've kind of went through our processes and went up to here.
Mhm.
So October 3rd would be the next time we vote on it. And then we do a December 6th vote out to the community if it's approved.
And those would be, when folks vote, they would be voting for two separate things.
They vote
on
for
the-
two separate things. They vote for the EPC and they vote for the capital project. So, and again, there's no increase in our tax levy when we're doing this, and it's all guaranteed through the EPC and all those other issues. If they vote down the EPC,
And
a
the-
vote through on the project, you really kind of still need to do them hand in hand,
Mhm.
because there's a lot of things that we put into the EPC. The desert air is not as part of the project down there, but we really want to get the desert air fixed because it's over 600,000. So we could look for another EPC if it doesn't get voted in and only focusing on the elementary school, but that's a whole nother can of worms. Hopefully they both go.
Awesome. So, any other questions? Jump the gun. Anyone want to move to adjourn?
I'll move it.
And second? All right, all in favor? Aye. All right, RG?
All right, good night, everybody. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, RG. Take care. Be well.